In this course, you will learn and build iOS and Android applications from single code base for the UI and the business logic using Kotlin Compose Multiplatform. You will learn how to build modern applications with MVVM clean architecture and from single code base using Kotlin programming language for both the Android and iOS. You will learn all these by building currency converter app. In this course, you will learn how to work with MongoDB real-time local database. You will learn how to use offline cache. You will learn how to work with third-party APIs. You will learn how to implement dark and light theme for the Android and iOS applications using Kotlin Compose Multiplatform. So in this course, you will learn all about Compose Multiplatform and how to use Compose Multiplatform to develop iOS and Android apps from single code base using MVVM clean architecture using MongoDB real-time database. So I hope you will love this course, and I can assure you that after completing this course you will be able to make your own fully functional iOS and Android applications using Kotlin Multiplatform. If you are already invested in Kotlin or Android development, and if you need tight integration with native code or want the flexibility to adopt multi-platform gradually, then Kotlin Multiplatform is for you. So what is Kotlin Compose Multiplatform? Compose Multiplatform is an extension of Jetpack Compose, Google's modern toolkit for building native UIs in Android, which allows you to create user interfaces that work across multiple platforms like Android, iOS, desktop, and the web using single code base. Now, why it's important? It's emphasize how Compose Multiplatform streamlines UI development by allowing developers to write once and deploy across different platforms, reducing duplication and ensuring consistency. With Compose Multiplatform, you can build once and deploy everywhere, saving time and reducing the risk of bugs. It ensures that your app looks and behaves consistently across all platforms with minimal effort. Hello guys, so let's start a new project. Open up your browser first of all and simply type the URL kmp.jetbrains.com kmp.jetbrains.com, as you can see, and then press enter. So we will create our project Kotlin Multiplatform, and then here you have to write your project name. So we will give it name as foreign currency exchange app. Then your project ID you have to type here organization dot, instead of example you can write your name or your company organization name. So I will write coding cafe dot project, which simply means your project name. So I will write my project name. Okay, make sure that the alphabets in small English alphabets, okay, not in capital, just like this. Then select Android, iOS. Now this KMP multi-platform wizard, KMP wizard, allow us to target any platform we want, like Android, iOS, desktop, web, server, anyone. Okay, since we are developing the Android and iOS app, so we select Android, iOS. So easily using kmp.jetbrains.com, using the KMP wizard, you can do that easily. As this is a Compose multi-platform project overall, so make sure that for iOS you select this one, which is Share UI with Compose Multi-Platform UI Framework. After this, you can scroll down and simply click on the download button, and it is going to create this project, and it will be downloaded successfully. As you can see, if you go to your downloads folder, you will find your project here. As you can see, it is in zip form, so you can copy or cut this project from here. Now open up your IDE, Android Studio as an IDE, we will be using it. So then what you need to do is you need to simply go to your projects where you want to keep it. Okay, you can keep this project anywhere you want. For example, if I want to keep it on the desktop, so all you need to do is that from the downloads folder, you can move it to the desktop like this. Okay, it is totally up to you, anywhere you want to keep it. Then right click on the project and then simply extract here. Okay, you can extract using WinRAR, or you can extract also by clicking on the zip file and click on extract all. So anyways, now once it is extracted, you will get this project folder, and then after it, of course, you can delete the zip file. We do not need the zip file, we need this project folder file. Now let's open up this in our Android Studio IDE. So click on open, and then on the desktop, I have it, as you can see, foreign currency exchange app, which is the app. So you can see that our app is opened inside the Android Studio. Now once it is open inside the Android Studio, let the Gradle build finished successfully. Now if you want to see that what is going on in the background, as you know, the building model and the Gradle build is running, that is our project is creating, you can click here and it will show you the short details. And if you want the complete details like the build, then you can click on this build, and when you click on this build, it will exactly show you what is downloading and what is going on. Okay, that is, it is creating, or you can say the project is created already, but it downloading the required components for our Kotlin multi-platform app. So you have to be patient. For the first time it took some 5 minutes, so you have to wait for it. Okay, so from the build you can check that. So the build is successful, it is completed successfully. Then you have to make sure to select from here project, and here you can see this compose app module, which is the entry point for our this app. So compose app module is the entry point for our foreign currency exchange app. Other than this, we have the iOS app module, which is for the iOS app build. That is, it contains some files. For example, if we want to add some permissions, let's say for using the user location, for using the phone gallery, so it contains that specific files for the iOS settings. For now, this is just the short description. Later on, when we go step by step in the upcoming videos, you will understand more easily each and every step practically, that how it works when we will be testing our this foreign currency exchange app on the Android phones as well as on the iPhones using Kotlin multi-platform. So compose app module is the entry point for our foreign currency exchange app. Other than this, we have the iOS app module, which is for the iOS app build. That is, it contains some files, for example for the Swift, or for example if we want to add some permissions, let's say for using the user location, for using the phone gallery. So it contains that specific files for the iOS settings. So whenever we need to do the settings for the iOS, we just import, or you can say we open this iOS app module in the Xcode, only this iOS app module in the Xcode. For example, for testing our iOS application on the iPhones, we open this iOS app module in Xcode, and then we install the app on our iPhone through Xcode. So as I said, we will be going step by step, and you will learn everything easily step by step. And then after it, you can see we have in the project level build.gradle file, we have the plugins. For example, these are the plugins like the JetBrains Compose, Kotlin Multiplatform. So all these plugins along with other dependencies are located in their version catalog file. When I say version catalog file, it is basically inside the Gradle libs.versions.toml file, as you can see. So this is the main place where we keep the libraries, the plugins, and the versions, as you can see. So this is the main place where we keep our plugins and their respective versions. Now after that, if we go to the Compose app, inside it we have the Compose app build.gradle file, which you can also call it as app level build.gradle. Now the app level build.gradle contains the plugins, and then you see we have the target. The Kotlin contains the target, so the target Android target, and then we have for the iOS target. You see that we have three architectures: iOS x64, iOS ARM64, iOS simulator ARM64. Now this iOS x64 architecture is basically means the iOS application running on the x64 architecture, which simply represents the simulators, the iPhone simulators running on Intel chip. For example, you have an iMac or MacBook which has Intel chip, and when we test the application on Xcode on the iPhone simulator, okay, on iPhone simulator, then this one, which is iOS ARM64 architecture, this one is the devices which are running on the ARM64 architecture. It includes, for example, the iPhones and the iPads, the real phones, okay, the real iPhones and real iPads. And then this iOS simulator ARM64 represents the M1, M2. For example, you have iMac and MacBook which has M1 chip or M2 chip, and on that, let's say you have the simulator, so that will use the ARM64 architecture. Now there are two main source sets. One is the Android man and the other one is the common man. Now inside we include the dependencies that target only the Android platform. For example, most of the Android APIs. And in the common man, we include, or you can say we add the dependencies which can be shared between multi-platforms. For example, it can be shared between Android, iOS, desktop applications, web. And then for here we can include one more, which will be by the name iOS man, where we can only include the dependencies which are purely for the iOS platform. Once you include that, then click sync now. So this is for the dependencies which are purely for Android platform. This is for the dependencies which are purely for iOS platforms, and the common you already know, or the dependencies which we will include here are the shared dependencies between multi-platforms, like between Android, iOS, desktop, web. You will understand it practically step by step in the upcoming videos, so please don't worry about it. Now when you create the application using the Compose Kotlin Multiplatform, it comes with a default code. For example, if you expand this Compose app where we have src common man and then Kotlin common man, we have greeting dot Kotlin file and then platform dot Kotlin file. So this is the common man source sets, and it has the capability to trigger on both the iOS and on the Android. In the common man here, we are basically define the structure, or you can say the logic structure. The platform.kotlin file contains interface with a single name property, and below that one expected function as you can see, one expected function which is implemented in both of the iOS and Android. Now if you see here inside the Android main Kotlin platform.android.kotlin, in simple words, if you check inside the Android main source set, here we are using platform specific API purely from the Android. For example, android.os.build, which is to get the current version of the Android OS. And here also we have the iOS main source set platform.ios.kotlin. So in simple word, in the iOS main source set, we are using platform specific API purely from the iOS. For example, platform.uikit.ui device, it is only specific for iOS whenever we want to get the iOS version. Then in the common main, we have also the app.kotlin file. Now this is the entry point for our composable UI. Now in simple word, this is the main place where we are going to design how our application will looks. Other than this, one more important thing is in the common main we have it has a directory by the name compose resources, and here basically we can add different resources to share with both platforms, like the drawables and fonts, etc. So now let's test our application. Now let's install the app. So our app is running now on the Android, and now you see the click me button. If you click on that, it says compose hello. Now which API we will use for the currency conversion? So that API is called currency API. So simply write this URL currencyapi.com. So we will be using this API from currencyapi.com. First of all, you have to first create your account. So click on start for free, and here you can sign up with your email, or you can directly sign up with your Google account. I will proceed with my Google account directly. Click on your Google account and then click continue. Your account is being finished, just a few more seconds. If it's stuck here, you can simply refresh the tab, okay, because your account is already created and it just stuck there. I mean, due to maybe your internet or something, so you have to just refresh and you will see the dashboard after the successful sign in with Google. So here in the dashboard, you will find your API key, okay, and then here is the documentation where you can check about the endpoint. That is, for example, the one in which we are more interested is the exchange rates, okay. So you can see the endpoints and also how we will format our model classes. As you can see, the response, that is, after sending the request to the API, it will return us the response with the exchange rates. So anyways, now what we can do is we can simply go to our project, and inside our project, compose app src common man Kotlin common man. Inside the Kotlin man, if you click here on this gear icon, click on tree appearance and click on this compat middle packages. So it will show you the packages, that is how it is organized, okay. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a data remote third-party API package. So right click on your for example, in my case it is foreign currency exchange app. So right click on this folder in which we have our app.cat1 file, greeting and platform.kt. Right click on it, new, and let's create directory, and we will give it name as data remote /third party API. Press enter. Now right click on this third party API, new, and create new Kotlin class file. We will give it a name as foreign currency exchange API service. Foreign currency exchange API service class. If you want, you can hide the compact middle packages by clicking on this compact middle packages, just like this. Now we will create a companion object, and we will create two constants. One is for the API endpoint and other is the API key. So we can say constant value, let's give it name as endpoint API, and the other one will be constant value API underscore key for our currency exchange. Currency exchange API key we have to paste here. So go to your browser and let's do it. So from the dashboard, first of all copy the API key. So to the API key, currency exchange API key, we will paste here our API key, and then the endpoint API for the latest exchange rates, this one. So copy this HTTPS up to this latest and come back here and paste it here. Now let's go to our Gradle libs.versions.toml file. Now we will add a library for the multi-platform settings in our project. The library which we will be using is from this one, as you can see, for the multi-platform settings from Russell Wolf, okay, which is a Kotlin multi-platform library for saving simple key value data for both the Android and the iOS platform, using Kotlin multi-platform, using Kotlin purely. So under the libraries we can add the multi-platform settings, no arguments, equals to module will be this, and version.reference multi-platform settings. Then we will add the multi-platform settings quarantines, module equals to this, and version.reference. Now this second one allow us to use Kotlin flow when retrieving the data. You will see it when we will start implementing the app. As you know that we are going step by step, so you will understand it practically then. The next library which we will be using is from RTL Cafe, which is called Voyager, okay, screen model navigator transition coin, okay. For example, screen model is just like a view model designed to store and manage UI related data in a life cycle conscious way. It allows data to survive configuration changes such as screen rotation. So anyways, let's just include, so where navigator module will be cafe.rtl Voyager navigator and version.reference Voyager. Then we will add the Voyager screen model, and then the Voyager transition, Voyager coin, and Voyager core. So as I told you, Voyager is used for navigations and for screen model, which you already see, like for example it is just like a view model, and also for transition between the screens. And then the coin library, it is used for the dependency injection in this Kotlin multi-platform project. Then after this we will add the Ktor libraries. Now if you Google for Ktor, then it is basically content negotiation and serialization. If you want to check its details, you can simply search for this and it will show you the documentation, that is how we use it for negotiating and serialization, as you can see. So anyways, now add these libraries. Now this Ktor library will be used to manage the networking in our app from one place. And then we will add a multi-platform library for local database, which is MongoDB realm. Now this dependency will help us to store the data from the network once we retrieve it from the server. If you check the MongoDB realm, then you will find more about it in details, how it works. Okay, the documentation you can read by going to their official website. Then we will add the datetime library, which is Kotlin X datetime. Now Kotlin X datetime library, the functionalities related to datetime will be handled using this Kotlin datetime library. After that, inside the plugins, we will include the Kotlin X serialization and realm plugin. Then after that, go to the project level build.gradle file and include these two plugins which we just added. And then after it, go to the compose build.gradle file. Inside the plugins, include these two plugins. And now let's handle the dependencies in our this compose app build.gradle. For that purpose, in our source set for the Android, we will add the Ktor dependency, and then for the iOS we will add the Ktor Darwin dependency. Now in the common man dependencies, we have to include all these libraries which we use here in our lib.version.toml file. So let's do it. So in our compose app build.gradle file, inside the common man dependencies, first we will add the dependencies for the multi-platform. Then after the multi-platform we have the Voyager, so let's add the Voyager dependencies in the common man as well. And then after this we will add the MongoDB currencies dependency, and then the Voyager dependencies, and then finally the datetime. And don't forget to mention the versions for all these dependencies on our libversion.toml file. Okay, which simply means, for example, we are using the dependencies like, let's say, multi-platform library. So for that one we will add the version. Then let's say for the Voyager we have to add the version. Okay, and then we have the coin core, so let's add for that as well. Then we have to add for the realm currencies and stately common. So let's add the versions. Then we have the Ktor, let's add the Ktor and Kotlin X datetime version. So we can say Ktor datetime. So please add these versions for the libraries and dependencies which we add. Okay, so add these versions, and then once you add this, then you have to simply click on sync now. So the project is syncing, please wait for it. You can click on the build, or if it show you this pop-up, you can click on it and it will show you what is going on in the background. Okay, it is basically downloading and adding all these required libraries, dependencies in our project. So please wait for it. You can find this window under the build. Okay, if you click on build, then it will show you that. So the project build is successful, as you can see. So let's start building our application. First of all, what we need to do is we need to define the color schemes for the black and white theme. So compose app src common man Kotlin common man, right click and create new directory. We will give it name as UI/theme. I will provide you guys with these two files, which is color.kotlin file and theme.kotlin file. Download this, copy it, and then right click on theme and then click paste and then click OK. So inside the theme we have color theme files now. Now if you check out this color.kotlin file, it has the colors defined in it already. For example, the primary color, header, surface color, you can see for the white theme and for the black theme. Similarly, if you go to the theme.kotlin file, then dark colored theme combination and light colored theme combination, it is defined here already, and it is based on the material 3. So we have to include that. You can go to the compose app build.gradle, and in here inside the compose app build.gradle, the common man dependencies where we have material, we need material 3. Once you add material 3, then click on sync now. So the project has been synced successfully. Now the next thing is, as you can see, okay, now the next thing is inside the common man Kotlin common man, go to app.kotlin file, and we do not need that for now. So what we need to do is we will simply remove this material whole theme and also remove the packages which shows errors. Okay, now whenever we send a request to the currency API, we get a response, and that response contains basically two objects. The first object is meta and the other object is data. The first object meta contains the timestamp, that is when the data is updated. After that we have the second object data, where we have the data map. For example, each data map has code key, and in front of it we have its value. Then we have another key by the name value, and the value of it is here. So it is a key value pair for each currency. You can see key value. Now let's create a class where we can implement our API response. So for that purpose we will create a new directory by the name domain/model, and then inside the model create a file by the name API response file. Data class API response. Now we will have two values, as you see from the API response from the documentation, that is meta, and the other one will be data. So we can say value meta. So we can give it name as metadata from API. The second one is the data, so we can say data, which is in the form of map string dynamic, that is the key name is in string format, the value can be in any format, but in our case the value, you know, that is basically the currency. So we will give it proper name like currency value. Then after it we will create another class by the name metadata from API, which you know contains the timestamp. So value. Now for the metadata we have to use the same key name which is coming from the API as a response, which is by the name last_updated_at. If you use other key name than this, then you will get error. After this we have data class currency value. Now you already know that the currency value contains two things. One is the code of the currency. For example, you have to use the same key name. Okay, I will show it to you now. And the second value is the value of the amount, which is in double data type. For example, if you go here, then you can see each currency contains a code value. Okay, so code value, each currency contains that. Instead of calling it currency value, the proper name will be currency object. Okay, so we can say currency object. So in simple words, now you can say that each currency object contains two things. One is the code, other one is the value. So it makes more sense now. This was all about the API response. Now let's send a GET request. Now let me show the compact middle packages. Now right click on domain, new, Kotlin interface. We will create an interface by the same name using which we have our third-party API. Okay, foreign currency exchange API service. So right click on domain, new, Kotlin interface, foreign currency exchange API service. Now our API, foreign currency API service, we will update its name to right click on the API file name. Okay, right click on this API file and then refactor and then rename, and we will rename it to foreign currency exchange API service IMPL, means implementation, and then click refactor. And then so this API implementation with the interface, which is by the same name, foreign currency exchange API service. Okay, which is the interface. If you click on Alt Enter, then you can import it. Okay, which is over this interface. Then now as we will be trying to fetch the data, so there will be two states, either there will be success or failure. So we have to handle the success and failure of the data from the API. So right click on model, new, and we will implement here a request condition class, which will be a sealed class out t. As the name suggests, request condition, which simply means that when we send request to the API, there will be four states, or you can say four condition. It will be either idle, loading, success, or error. We have to handle those situations. In case of success and error condition, we will receive a response. For example, success will have data which is coming from the API when a request is successful. So that data we receive. In case of error, we receive a error message as a response from the API. And the first two condition, idle, loading, it has no response. It is just when it is either idle or if it is in loading state. Then we implement three Boolean type functions for the loading, error, and success state, based on which we can update the UI. And then two more, get success info and get error message info. Now this will retrieve the data from the success condition, and this one will retrieve the exception data, or you can say the error message, from the error condition. So that's why we give it appropriate names like get success information and get error message information. Now let's go to our interface. Let's retrieve the latest. For example, we are going to retrieve the currency exchange, the latest exchange rates. So we will give appropriate name to this function like retrieve latest currency exchange rates. Now you know that the return type of this function will be multiple foreign currencies which we will get as a response. So we can say request condition. Make sure to import here our request condition. Okay, so we can say domain dot model dot request condition, which will be list of currencies. Which will be a list of currency objects. It simply means, like as I told you, first currency, second currency, let's say third, and so on. So let's import our this class, which is currency object. So on our interface, let's import model dot currency object. So over this function will return list of currencies. Now let's close these and go to the foreign currency exchange API service implementation class, and what we need to do is we need to implement members, which is retrieve latest foreign currency exchange rate. Okay, select this and click OK. So it will override it with this function. Now using Ktor, let's create an instance of the HTTP client. In order to use HTTP client using Ktor, we have to add a dependency for that in our common man build.gradle.kotlin. okay, that is here, build.gradle for compose app. Okay, the build.gradle file. In here we have to include inside the common man dependencies, include the dependencies Ktor client. Okay, client content negotiation and serialization. We forgot to add these. Once you add that, click on sync now. So it has been synced successfully. Now come back here and now let's import the HTTP client. Install content negotiation JSON pretty print equals to true, is length true, ignore unknown keys true. This plugin is used to convert between different content types. For example, from Kotlin objects to JSON and from JSON to Kotlin objects. Now it has some properties. For example, this property configures the JSON serialization to include the white spaces to make the human readability better. After this, we have the second property. This reconfigures a JSON parser to be lenient, which allow you to accept the non-static JSON syntax. After this third property, this configures the JSON parser to ignore the unknown keys encountered during a deserialization. After the first content negotiation plugin, we will install and add another plugin which is called HTTP timeout. In how much time? So for that purpose we have to specify the property which is called request timeout in milliseconds. So after 16,000 milliseconds, the HTTP request timeout will happen. 16,000 millisecond means 16 seconds. Now let's add the third plugin. Let's install, which is by the name default request headers, and we will append it with a header and that is basically our API key. So our header is by the key name API key, so make sure to add the same. We can say API key comma API key currency exchange. Now if this header show error, make sure to import this headers which belongs to the package, which make sure to import, for example, this one, okay, Ktor client request headers, or you can simply retype it again, which is this one, and make sure to write the correct spelling for append, APPEND. So this is the default request, which simply means that whenever each time we send a request to the API, it will have its header, inside its header the API key, which is according to the documentation which you can see here. In the header we have to include the API key. Now let's implement this method. Return try catch block. If any error occur, then exception, we can say error, which will contain the exception or error message. So we can say request condition dot error condition message, and to the message we will assign our error message exception. Then in the try block we can say response from API. To this we will assign the HTTP client dot get endpoint API. Now you know that endpoint API is basically the API to which we are sending request. Okay, so the API will send us back the response which we assign to our response from API value. Then we check if response from API status code, if it become equals to 200, it means everything is successful. Otherwise else the error condition HTTP error and the response from API dot status. Now if the status code is equals to 200, then in that case it means we are receiving the response data from the API, so we have to get that data. So for that purpose we can say value, and let's give it name as a response data from API JSON decode from string API response from API dot body. So as you know that it will return a list of currencies. Interface, and then after getting the response body from API, the response data from API, we can say request condition dot success condition, and to the data we will assign the data coming from the API as a response. So we can say response data from API dot data dot values dot toList. So what we did here, we get the body, that is the response body from API. As you know, it will be in encoded form, so we decode that and we assign it to our response data from API. It will be as an object, so that object we convert to list, which will be returned as a list. Now let's test the result, that is either we are getting this response successfully or not. We have to see the result. So for that purpose, first of all, make sure to go to Android main. We have to add a permission basically for internet. So Android main, Android manifest.xml, and here include this permission, uses permission, Android permission access, Android permission dot internet. So now let's quickly implement the presentation layer. So first I will click on compat middle packages, and then let's create a new directory by the name presentation/screen. Now right click on presentation screen, new Kotlin file by the name home page screen, which belongs to the Voyager library, and it has a built-in method implement members content, which is composable. Now let's go to the app.kt file and let's define the initial page from where our app will start. So we can first say material theme, and then using navigator our page, which is by the name home page. And then on the home page, what we can do is, for now, we can add launched effect unit, and we will call our foreign currency exchange API implementation dot retrieve. Make sure to add parentheses here, then retrieve latest foreign currency exchange rates. Now let's print out the result using print line. So what we can do is we can simply say print line. So we can say response from API equals to, please do not give any extra space here, okay? And then we can say response from API dot body string. Make sure to add the concatenation sign plus, which simply means that it will combine these two strings. Now one important thing before testing the application is we have to make sure that we are using the latest version numbers. For example, if you go to the Gradle libs.version.toml file, then the versions which are new, you will not see a gray hover over it. For example, you can see there is no gray color upon it, but this one realm, you can see it has some gray background. You can see that. For example, if you hover your mouse over it, it will show you the description, that is a newer version of realm is available, which is 2.0.0. so make sure to use the latest new version for all dependencies, okay? So for example, now you see the background gray color is removed from it. Then we have for the date time. So hover your mouse over it, it will show you the new version, which is 060. Similarly, with the AJP new version available, if you hover mouse, you will see 852. So any new version at the time when you watch this video, any new version is available, you can simply hover your mouse and it will show you the suggestion, and you can write that new version, okay? For example, in my case, I change it to the new version available at this time, at the time when I am recording this video. Then click on sync now. So our project has been synced successfully. Now let's open up our Android emulator and let's install the app on the phone. So the phone is installing. If you want to check the details, click on build. So the app is running now, and now we have to check the response from API in the log cat. So just copy this same text. That's why I told you guys to not give any extra space. Okay, so just copy this exact string. Okay, and in the log cat you can simply paste that response from API equals to, and you can see that we are getting the response from API successfully. As you can see, first we have our first object which contains the metadata, that is the timestamp when the data is updated last time, and then we have the second object data which contains the currencies, as you can see, for example the first one, then we have the second one, and so on. So now we are going to persist the timestamp value, and we will basically check then. For example, in today date, let's say we make a call to API, we fetch the exchange rates. So the time at which I send a request, you know that with the API response we also get the timestamp metadata, which basically tell us about the time of the exchange rates data. So let's say if I make a request now, I get the exchange rates, and then during this whole day, if I open the app again and if I want to check the rates again, then for this day I already make a call and the rates are retrieved. After one day it will check. If the day is greater than 1, means the next day, that is let's say tomorrow, if I make a call, or let's say tomorrow if I open up the app, then it will be a new day, another day, and then at that time a new call will be made, and for the next day the new rates will be retrieved through API. So as I told you guys how we will implement, we will basically catch the timestamp. On the basis of that, we will decide either we need the data from the cache, that is from the local storage which is saved locally, or we need a new call and we want to retrieve the new rates from the API. So we will basically persist the timestamp. So let's proceed step by step. So we are going to create a new interface. Right click on domain, new, Kotlin interface, and as I said, we will persist the timestamp, which simply means that just like in simple Android or in Flutter we guys use the shared preferences, in the same way we will have this. So I will give it name as shared preferences repository. So I will just say shared preferences repo interface. Now this shared preferences repository will have two functions. One is store when last updated, another one is fetch data fresh, which is a boolean type. The first one, as you already know, it will take a timestamp, a string that we will persist locally, and the second function will return a boolean if the difference between the saved timestamp and the current timestamp is greater than 1, which I already explained, that greater than 1 day. With the help of this, we will know that is either the data coming from the API is fresh or not. Right click on data, new, click on data, new directory, and we will create a directory by the name local. Then right click on local, new, Kotlin interface, and we will create an interface by the name shared preferences implementation. This interface will take a settings as a parameter, which is a class that we are going to use from a multi-platform settings library, so that we can persist a simple key and value pair on both the Android and iOS. Then inside it we will have a companion object, declare a key timestamp, which is a constant key, and under this we will save the timestamp value. Then after this, create a private settings proceed variable and cast this as a regular setting class to a coroutines implementation. Now let's override these two functions. So override this with our shared preferences repo. Implement members, these two members. After that, now let's save the timestamp as a long value. Settings, proceed dot put long key timestamp. Then after it we have value instance dot par last updated dot to epoch milliseconds, and then in the isFetch data fresh. So with the help of setting proceed, we call the getLong function with key timestamp and with the default value. The default value will be used in case if the actual value does not exist, and the result will be assigned to stored timestamp. And now for example we will check if the stored timestamp, if this is not equals to default time 0 long, else it will return false. So what we did here in the if statement is that we have the current date time, saved date, and from that basically we get the difference in days. So if the difference in days is less than 1, it will return true, otherwise it will return false. So true simply means that the data is freshed, and false means the data is not fresh. Now go to the foreign currency exchange API implementation, and we need to persist data timestamp value that we get from the API response. So for that purpose, now here we need to specify shared preferences repository as a parameter. Now let's extract the timestamp value when last updated response from API dot. We can get the meta which contains the timestamp, and you know that after getting the response body, after that we can do that. So we can say response data from API dot meta dot last updated at. Then we will call the function in order to store the timestamp. Now we will do the dependency injection using the coin library. So let's create a new folder, a new directory, new package by the name dependency injection. Now inside the dependency injection folder, let's create a Kotlin file by the name coin module, as it is using the coin library. So let's create a variable by the name module application and assign to this the module from coin library. So in here we need to provide the instance of those dependencies that are required for our existing classes. So what we can do, we can say single here we inject the settings class as a singleton. Then the second one is the shared preferences repository. Now here we are already providing its implementation with setting parameter, and we call the get function, because using this way coin will automatically inject the required dependency. Now let's initialize the coin. So we will create a new function by the name init coin. Then we say start coin module application. Now let's call this init coin from our app.kotlin file. So we can say init coin. So we are done with the dependency injection. In the import, make sure to remove the packages which shows errors. So now let's filter the fetch data from the API. So right click on model, new Kotlin. We are going to create enum class. Let's give this enum class name as currency key, and this class will map each currency key with a corresponding country name as well as country flag. So let's say country name and then country flag. So we can say flag country, which will be drawable resource. I will provide this countries.rar file. Download it. After download, right click on it and then extract it. When you extract it, inside the folder we have these files. Okay, and then copy all the files, select all, copy, and once you copy it, go back to your project. Inside the compose resource, right click on drawable and then click paste and then click OK. You can simply say skip for all. If it shows OK, then skip for all, and it will add it, as you can see. Then after that, so let's add one by one. For example, for Zimbabwe we can say ZWL, country name Zimbabwe, then the flag country, which we can get from the drawable. So we can say, now to access resources from the drawable, we need to add the dependency for that in our compose app build.gradle.kotlin file inside the common main dependencies, and in here we will add a dependency implementation compose.components.resources. Let's sync our project first. So it has been synced successfully. Now we can use res, which means the resource library. Using resource library, we can access from the drawable the resources. For example, for Zimbabwe we have the flag country inside the drawable by the name Zimbabwe. Make sure to import by simply pressing Alt Enter button on your keyboard. Okay, you can see that. Then let's keep adding the remaining ones. Now to import for each country separately, it will become a headache. I mean, this is not a good way. What we can do is, instead of this, importing each country drawable separately, what we can do, we can simply say that generated dot resource, and then we can say dot static. Okay, just add dot static, which means everything which is in our drawable, import all. So you see that automatically from all of the drawables of the country flags are imported successfully, as you can see, after adding just this. Don't worry, I will provide all this complete file, and also from here you can just copy paste in your project. Now go to the foreign currency exchange API service implementation, and in here create a variable by the name currency keys available. You can say response data from api.data.keys. filter currency key dot entry dot map key dot name dot set dot toSet dot contains it. So basically what we did here is, if you come here, for example, we have these currency key, or you can say currency code. Each currency code has its country name and flag country. So we create the variable by the name currency keys available, and we filter those currency keys that are the same, or you can say we filter those currency codes that are the same as the one which we have in our currency key enum class. Okay, for example, each of them, this is a currency key. When I say currency key, it is basically this, or you can say currency code. So each currency key or each currency code contains country name and the flag of the country. So we filter those currency keys that are the same, which we have it inside our currency key enum class. With this filtering, it basically helps us, because the API also return currencies like the cryptocurrencies, which we do not want. So this filtering will help us to remove all other ones like cryptocurrencies, another one without flags. So we will basically get only those currencies with flags, and it will remove those which have no flags, and the cryptocurrencies, it will remove it. After this, then we create another variable by the name currencies available now, and this return a list of currencies instead of a list of strings. And then we will change the success condition, that is data will be now the available currency available now, currencies available now. Now right click on model, new Kotlin enum class, and let's create rate condition enum class. Now this rate condition enum class will help us in knowing about the rate, either the data is fresh or not. So it will be like an indicator. First property will be title rate and other will be color rate. Then we will have three conditions. The first one is idle condition, in which the title will be 4 hyphens because it will be idle condition, so we will just display these 4 dashes or hyphens. Then we have the fresh condition, and then we have the stale condition. In case of fresh condition, the color will be fresh color, which is green color, and stale condition will have orange color, and the title will be rates are not new. Make sure to import the packages. If by default you have import this wrong package, which is Skia color, we do not need this one. Okay, we need this one, which is Android X Compose UI graphics color, and then fresh color and stale color. Then after it, the presentation layer, create a new folder. We'll create a folder, a directory by the name component, and then we will create a composable function by the name home header. One home page header function, and it will be composable. In here we have column with a rounded corner, and Then after this we will add a spacer 26 dp. Make sure to import spacer and height. Then let's create another composable function rats condition with two properties: status rat condition on rats refresh. Then we will add row rats condition, which is our this rats condition function. Okay, rats condition status on rat refresh, and add here this as well, on rat refresh unit. And then inside this row widget we have another row widget, and then we have image. After the image we have spacer column, and inside that column we have two text. Now we will display an image from the drawable, which we have it in our drawable already, and I have already provided to you guys in the files with the country flags. I will show it to you. If you go to the compose resource, it is basically this image file, moneyexchange.png. So let's import. Then let's create a new directory by the name utility. Right click on utility, new, Kotlin. Create a file by the name operations. Here we will create a utility function by the name show current date time. First we get the clock system time. We assign it to the timestamp current variable, and then we get the date from it. Then after it, format the local date into the required representation: day of month, month, year. After that we determine the suffix for the day of the month. This one is special case for 11, 12 and 13 day of month, and then at the end we return, that is we format the date in the required representation, like day of month. For example, if the date is, let's say for example 11, then 11 will be the day of month, suffix value will be this one, the special one, that is from 11 to 13, th will be written, so it will be like 11th. After the suffix th we will have month. Let's say month is September, and then there will be a comma, and after that we will have the year. So let's say the year is 20, so it will be in this format. So now what we need to do is we need to simply call that here show current date time. Then we will add a refresh icon button in order to retrieve refresh exchange rates from the API. So after the row widget we will check if the status become equals to the stale condition, then we will display the icon button on red refresh, and the icon for that refresh IC is the icon from the drawable. We have it in the XML code, okay, this file. Now go to the home page. Here we can say column dot fill max size dot background surface color. home page header. Now go to the home page header, and inside the column, by mistake I've totally forgot to move this out. Okay, just copy this, which is inside this curly brace. It is outside here. Okay, paste directly here like that. Then after it, now let's create a view model. Right click on screen, new Kotlin. We will give it name as home page view model. Implement with it the screen model interface. This is the part of the virtual navigation library, and it is an excellent way to survive the configuration change. Here we will inject the references repository, which is shared references repository, as well as the API service, foreign currency exchange API service, and then we will implement home page UI event class, and we will send the custom events from the UI and then trigger them inside the view model. So we can say data object, refresh rates object, home page UI event. Then we initialize two variables. The first one is private variable and it is mutable. The other one is public variable and it is immutable. Then after it, then we will implement a new function to read new rates. If any error occurs, then of course we will display that error message. Other than that, using our API service, we can call the method for now, which is retrieve latest foreign currency exchange rates. Then from the init state, we can say screen model scope dot launch, and we call over this method, this function, which is read new rates. Now here we will also implement another method which will read the rate condition. So here we read the data timestamp value from the shared references storage and return the condition according to that. We will call this method from here. Now we are going to implement a new function which can be triggered from the UI. So let's implement it here. So this function name is pass event, and for now we will add one event, which is when the user wants to refresh the rates, then we will call read new refresh rates. Now let's initialize our home page view model and watch its properties. Go to the dependency injection coin module.kotlin and let's inject the dependencies which we use inside the home page view model. So we can say factory home page view model referencing get API service get. Now let's initialize the home page view model using the get screen model from our homepage.kotlin. So what we can do is here we can say view model get screen model home page view model, and then we get the rate condition, the rate refresh status, and make sure to import by press alt enter import stat.get value, and then inside the home page header we can say status is the rate condition, and then on rates refresh view model dot pass event to the UI home page UI event dot refresh rates event. Now go back to the home page, view model, and what we can do is this one, which is read rate condition. The rates condition we can call from here. Now one thing you have to do now is to delete the greeting class from your project, because we do not need it. It is the default class created with our project, so make sure to delete it. Go to the platform.kotlin. Also from the iOS main, go to platform iOS. We do not need this, so we can just say iOS platform. Also go to the Android, platform.android, and here we can say Android platform. Let's close the other files. Now go to the API response and make sure to add the serializable annotation with our class, so that we can deserialize it later successfully without any problem. Similarly with data class metadata from API, as well as with the API response. The reason for this is so that later we can deserialize the API response from API. Now after that, go to the home page header, and in here on the home page header, modify the size to 80 for the image, and then the spacer 20, and then after it the text typography dot body large, and for the title rate body large as well. Then alongside with the date time and title rate, we will display a text in which we will say today is. So now let's test the application. So here we go. Here you can see when you install the app on the phone, you can notice that first the state is idle, and then it changed to new rates because it retrieved the new exchange rates from the API. So we have the beautiful image. Then we have today is 12th August 2024, and then new rates. Now you can modify the date according to your choice, like you can move anything in it. For example, the show current date time, you can say suffix value, like you can move the month before the day, and you can say like month, let's say August 5th, and then the year. It is totally up to you, okay, in any format you want to display. As well as the background color for this homepage header, you can change, okay, and you can give any color you want. Like for example, I will say color dot blue. So you can change it to any color you want, okay, it is totally up to you. Now the icon will be available on the UI if the condition is equals to the stale condition. Then in that case, that refresh icon button will be visible, and it will be working in that case, and that button will be here. Now here on our home page header, we are going to add input fields as well as two fields for the currencies, from where the user can select which currency the user wants to convert, and from which currency to which currency the conversion will take place, alongside with our drop down. So let's proceed step by step. So let's create a function row scope dot currency view currency, it will have a title on top of it, so we can say title holder, the currency, that is from which currency, so we can say currency name, request condition, currency object, then the on-click event, that is when the user click on it. Then inside this function we will add a column modify dot weight 1f. Then we will add text for the title holder, then spacer, and then we have a row, in this row we are going to add the currency name and the currency flag, that is the country flag. So first we will check if the currency name dot is success. First we add the currency icon, then spacer, and then the currency name. Now let's create the input. So composable function currency inputs, for now it will have source, target, on switch parameters, and then we add a row, and then we will add two view. One is from currency to currency. For example, I want to convert from USD to pounds. View currency, this is the first currency view from currency, and then after it we will have spacer. Then we have the icon button for switching between the currencies, the icon for which we will access from the drawable, which is by the name switch currency, which is, as I told you, inside our drawable I have already provided, for example, the refresh icon and the switch currency icon. Now let's call this function inside the home page header. So what we can do is, you can say source, target, and then on switch click. Now let's combine the UI. After the rest condition inside the home page header, we can add a spacer and then currency inputs. Also, let's go to the home page and we can add the parameters here, source, target, and then on switch click. Now go to the home page view model, and in here we will have variable for source currency. The first variable is currency from, and the other one will be currency to. For example, let's say user wants to convert from USD to pounds. Now let's pass these two to the home page. So currency from, currency to. So the source is currency from and target is the currency to. Now let's go back to the home page header, and where we have added our first view currency, from currency, then we have the switch currency icon, and after that, first let's copy paste this view currency. This is from source, and then we will have to target, and let's add a spacer between the icon and the currency view. So now let's test our application to see the user interface. So we will have now the from currency view, then we will have the icon switch icon, and then the to currency view. Let's see. Here you can see that from currency, here we will have the input, then the switch currency icon, to currency. Now the next thing is we have to add the inputs. So for that purpose, on the home page header, let's create a function for input amount, and this function will have two parameters, amount number and on amount change. Now let's add a text field for the input. So you can say text field with modifier, then add value on value change, and call the on amount number change inside it. Then we add the customized colors. After this, apply text style, and then after it, since the user will be enter the amount, so we need the text field as a single line, that is not go to the second or third line. Only in single line the user will write input. Keyboard type will be decimal. And now let's combine this with the home page header. After the currency inputs, we can add now the amount input amount number. Let's add it to the header. So we can say amount number, which is of type double, and then on amount number change. Then from the home page, let's add that here, amount number on amount number change. To the amount number, we will assign by default 0. So we say variable amount digits, import the remembers savable and also mutable state of. Okay, make sure to import by press alt enter. And then to the amount number, we will assign amount digits. On amount number change, we say amount digit 8. Now let's install the app on the phone to see the text field. Oh sorry, make sure to assign to it the amount number and on amount number change. Okay, on the home page header. Instead of black background as a whole on our this header, what we can do is we can say dark gray. So you can see that first we have the reds condition, which means this area. If you check, for example, here we have implemented today is, then we display the time, and then after it the title, which you see here. Okay, and then alongside with this information, that is today's time, and this, if you check here, for example, I minimize this one, we have the image. Okay, so in a single row, first you see the image icon, which is money exchange icon, this one, and then in front of it we have a column in which we have today's 13 August 2020, for example, the date time and the rate status. So this is the UI. Okay, so this is red condition, and then after this we have some space. Okay, we have some space, then we have the currency inputs, which you see here. We have the currency inputs from currency, then the exchange icon to currency. Okay, which we implemented inside the currency inputs, as you can see. Okay, currency view from currency, some space, then we have the exchange currency icon, switch currency icon, space, and then we have to currency. So this is simple to understand, as you can see. And then after the currency inputs, we have the text field input, for where we will take input number from the user, which we implemented here, as you can see. So this is all about our user interface. If you want to decrease the space from the top, You can do that from here. You can simply say, let's say 10, and you can see that. So this is simple to understand. As a whole, we have column with a background dark gray, which you see as a whole, okay? And inside that column, first we have some space, and then we have reds condition, which you see here. You know that red condition is this area where we have this image and we have these three texts. Then we have some space, and then after it we have the currency inputs. Then we have some space, and then we have the input amount text field, which you see here. And to check its complete implementation, you can just go to reds condition. Here you will find, okay, image. Then we have inside another column in which we have these three texts. Then similarly after it we have the currency inputs, which you already know. We have view currency, from currency, then icon, and then we have to currency. And then after it we have, of course, the input amount number. So we are going to save the data locally using the local database. So we will be implementing the local database, and to the local database we will save the data which we are fetching from using the API from the server. For that purpose we are using the MongoDB realm database. You know that, which works like a Firestore, okay? In the same way, just like in Firestore we have collections, and inside each collection we have documents. So in the same way, in the MongoDB it is NoSQL database in which we have collections, and inside each collection we have documents. And then of course each document has multiple fields, one or more fields, depend upon on the scenario, that is which data you are saving to it. So now let's create a new interface. So right click on domain, new, Kotlin interface, and it will be for MongoDB repo. First we will configure the object realm. So we can say function setting realm, then to function for add currency amount data and retrieve currency amount data into the database, okay, and from the database. Now right click on local, new, Kotlin, and we are going to create a class for implementing the MongoDB repo. So by the same name we can say MongoDB repo implementation. MongoDB repo implement members. Now go to the API response.kotlin file, and each document will have its own unique ID. So we can say variable object ID. So for each document we will have a unique ID, and it is for the realm object. So currency object class implement realm object, which is the interface that marks this class as a collection in the MongoDB realm database, and we convert this class to a regular class, open class. So we are treating this as a collection, and it is variable code variable value. Now go to the MongoDB repo implementation, and we will declare here a variable of type realm, and which is nullable. Now in the setting realm we will set the realm. For that purpose we will first check if the realm variable is equals to null or realm is closed. Then we will do the realm setting, or you can say we will configure the realm. So realm configuration dot builder schema set of currency object dot compact on launch dot build. Then to the realm variable we will assign the realm dot open config. So after this we are ready to do communication with the database, which simply means now we can use the database. We are ready, and then we will call this inside the init, which is setting realm. Now add currency amount data, which means save the data or insert the data. So we can simply do that using realm variable dot write, copy to realm currency. Then let's retrieve the currency amount data. So we can say return realm variable dot query currency object, which contains the currency information, dot as flow dot map. Request condition dot success condition data and assigned result dot list to it. Request condition dot error condition, and the error message will be realm setting not successful. Now if it shows you this red line with the currency object, okay, and which says no value passed for parameter, it means you have to import the required library, like required package. So press alt enter here, it will show you the suggestion. So you have to import extension functions, okay. So it is simple. If we retrieve the data, then simply return that data. Otherwise, if there is no data, that is the error condition will execute, which means that realm settings not done successfully. Now let's go to the home view model and let's inject here the MongoDB repository. MongoDB repo. Then go to the coin module and let's include their dependency here. So we can say singleton MongoDB implementation. Then here we can say MongoDB rep get. Now let's go to the home page view model, and here we are going to update our read new rates function. We will modify it. Now here we will implement code to read the data from the local database. If the data exists, only then. Otherwise, if the data do not exist in the local storage, which simply means that we will check if the rates are not fresh, which we already implemented. If the rates are not fresh, then simply fetch the new rates through API from the server and save it to our local storage, which can here then we will read it from the local storage. So anyways, let's just implement it and you will understand it more easily. So we can say local storage MongoDB repo dot read currency amount data dot first. We will check if the local storage dot is success or if it is not success. So if it is success, in that case we will check local storage dot get success info dot is not empty. If it is not empty, if the successful information is not empty, which means the success data, from the local storage. If it is not empty, then for now, just for the testing purposes, we will print out the data from the cache. So, and we can say that data is available from database, which you know that local database, or you can say local storage. Okay, so you already know this. Now we will create a variable where we get overall currency, and then if the data is available from database, then add the data to this overall currencies. So what we can do is we can say underscore overall currencies dot add all local storage dot get success information. And then the important thing we have to do here is to check if the data is fresh or not. So we check if the is data fetch is fresh. If the data is not fresh, which means we add the exclamation mark at the start, which means not. So if it is not fresh, then in that case we will fetch data using API, new data, new rates from the server. So here we will say data is old, or you can say not fresh, and then we are going to get the fresh data. So we can say read data API server dot retrieve latest for foreign currency exchange rates, and then we check if read new data dot is success, and then this new data which we fetch, we are going to save it to the local storage, to our MongoDB database. So if the read new data is success, then we are going to run a for each loop on that. So we can say read new data dot get success info dot for each, that is get all the data from it and insert it inside the MongoDB dot add currency amount data, and we get each currency and we keep adding it to the database. Now just for the testing purpose, let's print out it. So we can say that saved it dot code. Then we are going to update the overall currencies. So we say overall currencies read new data dot get success info. Now in case if the data is not successfully retrieved, then in that case the else statement will execute, and here we will check if the read new data dot is error, then we can say retrieving failed, or you can say reading failed, and we will display the error message by read new data dot get error message info. Then after this we are going to check, as you know that here we are checking if the data is not fresh. It means we have the old data. So when we have old data, then the if condition execute, and what we do, we get the new data, where we of course add condition. If it is retrieved successfully, then the new data we add to the MongoDB, and then we update the overall currency. Other than this, else we will just say data is fresh, or you can say data is new. Now the next thing that we have to do is, if the database, or you can say if the local storage is empty, then the else part we have to implement. So we will print out that database is empty. So when the database is empty, we have to follow the same step, which is basically to get the new data from the server using API, and then add that data to the MongoDB and update overall currencies. So we will use the same code. So instead of copy pasting the same code, we are going to follow the professional way of writing code, which is to make it reusable. We will make this code reusable. So what we can do here, we are going to implement another function. So we will implement a method by the name get new data and save to database, which means save to local storage. So we will cut this code from here, okay, this piece of code, Control X, and paste it in here. So now what we need to do, we need to just call this method here and then here as well. And then if the local storage is not success, then for that also we can say else if local storage dot is error. So if there is error, then we will print out the result that error reading local storage. Local storage simply means the local database, okay, the MongoDB. And then we will display the error message. So we can say local storage dot get error message info, and there is no need for this else statement, okay, we can just remove it. We have if, else if for checking the error. Other than this, you can now remove this. Now before we add the new data to the database, we have to clean the old data from the database. So go to the MongoDB repo, and here we can add a function. We will give it name as db cleanup, and then go to the MongoDB implementation and let's add that member db cleanup. So we can say realm variable dot write all data from db. We have to get that first. So for that purpose, we can say this dot query currency object. We get the old data, the old currencies from the database, and then we delete the old data from db. Then on our get new data and save to database, if read new data dot is success. So before saving the data to the MongoDB, we want to delete the old data. So we will call here MongoDB repo dot db cleanup. So delete the old data from the database first. Now to check the result in the logcat, let's add here an identification. For example, we will say testing equals to, okay, and the same way copy this, let's add it here as well, and then here as well. Now go to the coin module, MongoDB implementation. We have to specify the type, which is MongoDB repo. Now let's test the application on our phone. So we get an error. If you get this error which says multiple plugins generated nested class with same name companion for a class, then the fix for that is you have to go to the API response, and in here in our currency object realm object, we have to add here companion object. That's it, and it will fix that issue. So let's install the app again on the phone. So the app is running now successfully. And now if you open up the logcat, and now let's check what we got here. So testing, you can see that At the start, database was empty because I have removed the old app. Okay, I have uninstalled the old app from my emulator, and then when I run the app, then database was empty, which means it execute this statement, database is empty. So after that, it called this get new data from the API, that is from the server. So once we get the new data, if it is successful, it is successful, then we make sure that MongoDB is clean up, which means that there is no old data in the MongoDB. So then the new data which we just fetched, we run a for each loop on it, and one by one we keep adding it to our MongoDB repository, that is to our local storage. And alongside with that, each data we keep printing it in the log cat, as you can see, for example AED and so on. You can see the currencies. So once this all data is added to the MongoDB, to the local storage, then we update the overall currencies. That's why you see this. So now, as you know that we have get the new data, the new rates, and we save it to the local storage, to the MongoDB. Now, as it is already saved to the local storage for the current date, okay, so if we launch the app again on the phone, and now let's see what we get now. So for example, if we go to the locate, and as we scroll to the top previously, so if you scroll to the bottom, then after that we have now data is available from database, because we already retrieved the new rates. So now this condition stands true, that is local storage is already filled with the data from the server. So it says data is available from database, and as we have already the fresh data, so it will execute the else statement. So it says data is new, which you can see that. Even for example, if you close the locate and install the app again on the phone, and now go to the locate and simply search for this, then you will see that data is available from database, data is new, because already we fetch the new rates from the server using API, and we save it to the local storage, to the database. So if you remember, in the first case, when we test the application for the first time, database was empty. We get all the currencies and then updating overall currencies, and you remember that for the first time this statement was executed when we test the app for the first time. And once we get the new rates from API, we keep adding it to our MongoDB, to our local storage, and we update the overall currencies. Then after it, we close the app and we install the app again on the phone. So you know that already the data was saved. So in this method now, when we read the MongoDB, the local storage, so the local storage has already the data, which means this condition stands true, and that's why we see that data is available from database, because we already saved according to the current date time. The data is fresh, so it will skip this if statement and the else statement will execute successfully, and that's why we see that data is new. Now when the user launches the application, we are going to display the default from currency and also the to currency, that is from which to which currency the conversion will take place. Okay, so by default we will set some default currencies using the local storage. So for that purpose, go to the shared references repo. Here we will add 4 new functions: store from and to currency, and then retrieve from and to currency to your local storage. So then after it, go to the shared references implementation, and let's implement these 4 members. Then after it, we are going to create keys, currency key from and currency to, then store from currency key and store to currency key. Then for the retrieving part, we have to make sure that, let's say if there is any problem occur in the retrieving, then we must have the default currencies. So for that we can initialize these two, like the default currency from and default currency key to, which means you can set any currency. For example, I choose Great Britain pound, okay, which is the from currency. AED Arab Emirates dirham I choose for the to currency. So from to, you can choose any other one. Let's say if you are from USA, then you can choose, let's say, your default currency USD, okay. And you can also change the source currency. Let's say if you are from India, then you can choose Indian rupee, INR, okay, Indian rupee, and so on. It depends on your country. Let's say if you are from Pakistan, then you can choose PKR. For euros, you can write EUR, okay. So anyways, then after it we can retrieve from currency, and then the retrieve to currency key. Now let's go to the presentation screen, homepage view model, and here we are going to implement a function. So in this function, what we are doing is, you can say that we are going to find the selected currency from the overall currency. So that's why we say overall currency dot find, and from it we get the currency key which is persisted, or you can say which is saved locally. So you know that overall currency contain all the currencies, and from that we get the currency which is saved. So that currency is assigned to the selected currency, and then we update the currency from variable. Then the same we will do for the to currency. So this is for the to currency, which means this is for the source currency and this one is for the target currency. Now let's call these functions in the init. Same, let's call this one as well. Then we have to observe and change the source and target, which means the from and to currency whenever it is changed by the user. So we have to update it with the new currency key, or you can say with the new currency code. So that is something which we will do later on. For now, let's test our application. So you can see that the default currency or the default keys, for example, from currency GBP, Great Britain pound, to AED, Arab Emirates dirham. So it retrieve from the overall currencies, it retrieve the one which we have persisted. For example, for the source we have persisted to GBP, and for the to we have persisted to AED. Okay, as you can see on the shared preferences, we have done that. So this is all about from currency to currency. So these are the default currencies for now which we set and which we persisted. Now later on we will allow the user to change the currencies using the drop down list. We will display a drop down list where the user can select any currency to which the user wants. Now we have to work on this image, switch image button, to switch between the currencies when the user click on it. So for that purpose, so go to the home page view model, and in here let's create a new home page UI event by the name currencies switch, and then in the pass event function we will create another event, home page UI event dot currency switch, and we call this function which is currencies switch. Let's implement this function. So assign the currency from value to from and currency to value to. which simply means that when we switch, then to the from value we will assign to, and to the currency to we will assign from, which simply means we will change source with the target and then target with the source value. Now go to the home page and we will send the new UI event. So in the on switch click, pass the event. Now let's install the app on the phone. Now let's click on the switch button and you can see that we switch between the currencies successfully. Let's add some animation between the switching. So go to the home page header and the currency input. So in here, so we define the variable which will check if the animation is initialized or not. Make sure to import remember and mutable state of. Then we implement the rotation animation. Then the icon button where we have our switch currency image icon. Here after padding we can say dot graphic layer rotation Y. To this we will assign the rotation animation, where you know that we change the values, okay, for rotation on the Y axis. And then on the on click we can say animation initialized, not animation initialized, which simply means that keep changing the value of the animation. Anytime the user click on this button, then it will have a value change, because it is a boolean type variable, okay. So we have to just make sure that every time the user click this, then the value will be changed for this. For example, if first is not true, which means false, then it will have false. The second time the user click, then it will be not false, which means true, so it will have true. And then let's say the user click again, then not true means false, so it will have false. So it will just keep changing. For example, now if we test the application, and now when we click on the switch, you can see that, okay, you can see the beautiful animation. The next thing is we have to add some animation on the currency view, on the from currency view to currency view. So for that purpose, go to the request condition. We can create a composable function by the name show result. So this show result is an extension function on the request condition class. We add 4 composable lambdas. Also we will define here transition animation. Make sure to import the required classes for it. Scale in, content transform, animated content, state, modifier dot fill maximum width, alignment dot center vertically, arrangement dot center. When state, so for the idle state, loading, error and success state. In case of error we get the error message info, in case of success we get the success info. Now go to the header, homepage header. Let's apply those animation on our view currency, which is our this currency view. So what we can do here is, instead of this, if currency name is success, we can cut this out. Okay, cut this code, control X. Instead of remove this if condition, and instead we can say currency name dot show result on success, and paste back the code icon spacer text. So now we can say data dot code data dot code. So now let's install the app on the phone. So now if we switch, you can see the currency view animation. You can see scale in, fade and fade out the animation. So now we are going to implement the dialog in which we will allow the user to pick the currency with a search input. The user can search for any currency, and the user can choose from the dialog. So for that purpose, in the component, right click on component, new Kotlin file, and we will create a file by the name currency, choose currency dialog. Let's create a composable function, choose currency dialog. Now we need a model class. Right click on model, new Kotlin class, currency kind. This will be a sealed class. With the help of none, we will make sure that neither one of the two are selected. My default source is GBP, Great Britain pound, so I proceed with that for the none. If you have USD, then you can write here USD. Now let's go to the currency dialog, and here we will have 4 parameters. The first one is the currencies list, as we will have multiple currencies in the choose currency dialog, where the user can search for different currencies. So from the list, the user will pick one. So that's why we will have the currency list as a parameter, then currency kind, which is a sealed class with 3 subclasses, among which none will make sure that none of the two are selected. And then after it, we have on confirm click, which is for the confirmation for the dialog, and on dismiss will help us in closing the dialog box. And then after it, we have 3 states. As you know that on the dialog box, we will have a search currency feature where the user can input, that is for which currency the user is searching, and it will have a list of available currencies among which the user will search. Then we have the search currency query state, and then after it we have from the list, when the user choose any currency, then that we will be remember using the chosen currency key. Then after it, you can say alert dialog, which belongs to material 3 alert dialog. Then container color dot dark gray. Then alert dialog has some other properties like title, text, on dismiss request, dismiss button, and confirm button. On dismiss request we call on dismiss. And now let's complete the UI for this alert dialog. So in the title we can say search and choose currency using text. Then in the text section we can have a column with a text field for searching, that is to take input from the user, with a modifier dot clip rounded corner shape. Anything the user type in the text field, that will comes to the search currency query, okay, which is the value for this text field. Then we have on value change. For now we will leave it empty. Then placeholder. So using text we can say right here. After placeholder we have to make sure that this text field is single line, and then apply some text style, and then after text style colors. For our text field. Then after this text field we can add a spacer of height 22 dp, animated content, target state, overall currencies. We will implement this later on. For now let's come here to the dismiss button. So dismiss button will have a text button, text close, and then the confirm button, and confirm button, text button which has text confirm, and we will have primary color for this button. Now in our text field, on value change, user input, and then the user input we convert to uppercase and we assign it to our search currency query. If the user provides some input, which means if the user input is not empty, then we filter the overall currency that we have, and from that we search for the user input. If it contains the user input, let's say the user search for USD, so the user input is USD, so we filter our overall currencies, and from the overall currencies it will filter out the USD. Then after it, first we make sure that our overall currencies are clear, and then the filtered currencies which we just filter with the user input, the filtered currencies came to this, and then we add the filtered currencies to our overall currencies, which means that it contains the user search result, user search currency. Else, if the user input is empty, then in that case we clear the overall currencies, and then we add the currencies list to our overall currencies. Now in simple words, it simply means that if the user is searching, if the user type any input, then in that case that specific input, user input, we pick from the overall currencies, and we assign the filter result to our this variable, and then we add that to our overall currencies. Otherwise, if the user is not typing anything, that is if the user is not searching, in that case the user input will be empty, the else statement will execute, and whatever currencies list we have, the default one, we will just add it to the overall currencies. That we will have the already non-filter currencies list. Then after it, the animation which we add, currencies available. If the currencies available is not empty, then we add the lazy column, items, to this we will assign our currencies available, and then key, make sure to put a comma here, it dot doc id dot to hack string. So the item on which we hover the mouse and we click, it will have the animation. Now if the currencies are available, let's say if there is no currency available as a result of user input, so right click on component, Kotlin, and we will create the error page, and it will be a function, not class, so we can say composable function error screen modifier message to show parameters. box modifier.fill max size alignment.center, and then using the text we will display the message to show nothing found. So now go to the choose currency dialog, and in the else part we can say error screen. Now let's create a view for the choose currency dialog. So right click on component, new, Kotlin file, choose currency view. It will be a composable function, currency code picker view with 3 parameters: key currency, selected, and on select. Then we will have a saturation value, which simply means that on the user interface, when the user choose any country, it will have an icon. So the chosen one will have a highlighted color, while the other one will have gray, not highlighted color. So in simple words, you can say that the chosen option or the chosen currency will have highlighted color with an icon. So we can say launch effect dot is selected saturation value dot animate to. Then we change the color of the country flag icon by applying the color matrix dot apply. Make sure to import this. Then after this, then we animate the text of this component. Make sure to import get value tween animate float as state. Then we add a row with round corner shape, and which is clickable, having padding 9 from all sides. Then in here we add another row, then we add image, a spacer, and then text. So this is the UI which will make the selected option highlighted. After this, we are going to create another composable function by the name currency key selector, color animated, box Now this is basically a component which we will place here after the row. Now why we are adding this, basically this will be a icon. In here inside the currency key selected, we are going to implement icon. So when the user select any currency, we check if the user select any option from the dialog, then in that case we display this check icon, which simply indicate that this is the user select this option. Now let's go to the choose currency dialog, and then in here we have to add call our choose currency view, which is basically this one. Let's rename this. Select this name, right click on it, refactor, then rename, and we can rename it to currency picker view. Press enter, so it will do the changes. Okay, currency picker view function. So now in here we can just say currency picker view, to which we have to pass the key currency is selected and on select. So the key currency is the currency key dot value of currency option. So we can say currency option dot code. Then the second parameter, which is selected. So if the chosen currency name become equals to the currency code, so if it is equals, then it will send true, otherwise it will send false. Then the third parameter on select, chosen currency key it Now we will go to the home page, and here we will define the states which are required by the dialog. Selected currency type, then overall currencies we get assigned to the overall currencies, and then the is dialog unfolded. Then using this we check if the dialog is unfolded. If it is true, then for now we will display the dialog box where we have the overall currencies assigned to the currency list, then we have the currency type. On dismiss, on confirm click. Later on, of course, we will change this, that is when the user choose any option from the dialog box, then we have to get that option values. For now, just for the testing purposes, we just set false to it. So anyways, now let's install the app on the phone to see the dialog. So here you can see this is our dialog box. Let's set the color of this dialog box. If we go to the currency dialog and we will assign the color dot white. Now let's install the app again on the phone. So here is our dialog. So if we now, let's say, start searching for any currency, let's say USD. Now let's also alongside with it understand the UI which we implemented. So to display each currency, you know that we have a row in which we have the country flag image and the currency name, and we have the box for which we created this box. Now what it means, for example, you see the currencies, the non-selected currencies has country flag, currency name and empty box, which is exactly you see. And then the moment when we select any currency, then the flag become highlighted and it has the check icon which we implemented, okay, inside the currency key selector. So we have the currency, the country flag, the currency name, and based on the selected condition, if any currency we choose, then it also show us the icon highlighted. You can see that you can search for any currency you want and you can choose that. Now when the user click on the currencies either from or to, we have to manage the click listeners. Go to the homepage header. Here we have to add a parameter with the name on choose currency kind. Then after this, go to the currency inputs where we have the currency view from. So inside the currency inputs, let's add that as well. On choose currency kind. Then first for the from currency, get the currency code for the new currency which is selected, and then the same we can do for the to currency. Now here make sure that this one is target, okay, which means to, okay, this one is source and this one is target. In the same way we do it for the to, that is if target is successful, then get the currency code which is chosen by the user. Then make sure to add the same parameter on choose currency in the currency inputs in here. Okay, currency inputs. After this we have a new one which is on choose currency kind. Now go to the home page and in here let's add the new one. So what we are doing here is when the user click on the currency view, then the currency which is already selected, that will be passed to the dialog opened. For example, I click on the source and by that time there was GBP, like pounds currency. So when I click on that, it will open up the dialog, and through the dialog it will be passed that GBP is the selected currency. Then of course the user can search or select any other currency from there. But by the time when the user open up the dialog, we take the already selected, or you can say the default currency, and we assign it to the selected currency type, which means to the dialog. In the dialog it will be visible that this one is selected. Then after it, we can add another condition to our if, which is using AND operator. If the selected currency type not equals to the currency kind dot none, so when the dialog is dismissed, then in that case we will set the value of selected currency type to none. And also on the confirm, now we can change this to false, and then on the on confirm we can do the same. Now let's test our application. Now for example, GBP is by default, okay, it is selected. So if I click on that and I search, then you will see that GBP is already selected. Because this is already selected, so that's why you see the checked sign with GBP. Similarly here, if I click on the AED, you see that it is by default highlighted, that is selected, because it is the default currency in the currency view, and when I click on it on the dialog box, it will show it to me. And that is the same thing which I explained here, okay. So it is working exactly like we implemented. So anyways, when the user select any other currency, now we have to persist that, we have to save it. So for that purpose, we will go back to our home page view model, and now to the home page UI event we will add two classes, save from source currency key, save to target currency key. Then in the pass event we can add two events, homepage UI event dot save from source currency key and dot save to target currency key. Here we will implement two functions, store from currency, which is the source currency, make sure to import IO, and then store to currency, which is target currency. So from our pass event for this one, we will call store from currency. To this we will pass event dot code, and then this one is for the target, so we can say store to currency event dot code. Now it is simple. Now as I told you guys, whenever the user choose any new currency, then the new values we are storing, okay, for the source as well as for the target, that is for from currency to currency, okay, for both. Now on the home page, so we will check if the selected currency type is currency kind dot from source, then pass event, that is the changes will be done in the source currency view, the new currency will be updated on the UI. And then after it, same we can do for the target currency view, or you can say the to target, which simply means this one is the from currency view, this one is the to currency view, or you can say source view, target view. So whenever the user choose any new value, it will be updated on the user interface after when the user click on the confirm button, as you can see, okay, on confirm click. So now let's install the app on the phone to see the result. So the app is running now, and now for example let's check the source one. If I, let's say, search for any currency, let's say AED, confirm, then you can see AED to AED. If I search another one, let's say to euro, confirm. Then you can see it is changed to euro. After clicking on confirm, it is changed to euro. If I search for, let's say, PKR, so you can see that. Let's check it for the two, or you can say on the second currency view, which is for the target. Let's say I'm going to search for Saudi Riyal. You can see that. If I choose, let's say, another one, I search for MAD, Moroccan Dirham, then you can see that. So now we are going to add a button here at the bottom which will show us the exchange result for the user input, and at the center we will display the text that is the result when the user click on the button. So let's implement that. Let's create a new component by the name homepage body. So we will implement a composable function by the name homepage body, which will have three parameters: the from source to target and user input, which I already told you guys. For example, the user has selected from source currency to the target currency, so conversion will take place from source to target based on the user input. So source, target, user input. Then the calculation which we will be doing, for which we will implement the logic, is the state of that we will manage using the amount exchange result. Now when we will display the exchange amount result on the user interface here, we will also apply some animation on that. So for that purpose we can say exchange amount animation, animate value as state, and to do the calculation we will have our own custom convert double function. So let's convert double class. So let's implement it inside the utility. So right click on utility, new Kotlin class by the same name, convert double. Okay, we created by the same name, convert double. Two-way converter double, animate vector 1 direction 1D, animation vector 1D. Then click here and implement members. So convert from vector dot value to double, then convert to vector, animation vector 1D value dot to float. Go to the homepage body and import the convert double class. Then let's add the UI to our homepage body. After this animation we are going to add column. Make sure to import. Now inside this main column, which basically represents the homepage body, we are going to add another column, and inside this column we will have the currency text alongside with the currency code to which it is converted. And then after this column we will have a button. So I will say button modifier, then after the modifier after the modifier, on click we have for the button, and then after the on click we have colors. So we can say button defaults dot button colors. Okay, and then of course for this button, the text, so it will be show exchanged amount. After the button we will add a spacer, of height 24. Then here, as I told you, in the body, in this column, first we will have a text in which we will display the target currency name, or you can say the currency name. And then the animation which we have, using that we will display the target currency code, or you can say the name. This one is for the result. Okay, the exchange amount we display here. This one is for the just to display the exchange amount name, currency name, which means the target currency, okay, to which it will be converted. So for example, if you want, you can add comment. As I told you, this one will be for displaying the exchange rates result after converging. Okay, this is that text, and then after it we will display the target currency name. Let's say if we are converting from USD to AED, so it will be written that is result in numbers, and then we will have AED, the currency name. Then go to the operations and let's add two more functions or operations which are for exchange rate calculation and convert user amount into the exchanged amount. Now for example, from source to target, let's say the user selected Saudi Riyal. Okay, so this is the from source, and to target is AED, Arab Emirates dirham. So first we have to find out about the exchange rate calculation, that is what is the exchange rate from Saudi Riyal to AED. So we can determine that by doing to target by from source. So target by source, it will return us the exchange rate calculation. It will tell us about the exchange rate calculation. Then once we have the exchange rate amount, next thing is to take the user input. Let's say the user input 10 Saudi Riyal. Okay, the user wants to convert this to AED. So we have already the exchange rate amount, so we will simply multiply the user input with the exchange rate amount. So now in our homepage body, on the on click, when the user click on show exchange amount, or instead we can just say result, because it will give us the result at the end. So the button name will be show result, and then we first check if the source is success and target to target is success, then we call our function which is exchange rate calculation. Okay, and as you know that it has two parameters which we have to pass, like to which we have assigned the values of it. For example, let's say in the current scenario it is Saudi Riyal and AED, so it will be Saudi Riyal AED. So it will be assigned to from source to target, which are the parameters in this function. Okay, we are receiving here. So it will do the exchange rate calculation. Then after that, you know that it will return us the exchange rate calculation, which will be assigned to this exchange rate result. So we have the exchange rate amount inside this exchange rate result variable, and then after it we will do the conversion with the user input, that is to our this function we pass the user input amount and the exchange rate result. Okay, as you know that these are the required parameters here to do the calculation and to convert user amount into exchanged amount. So we get the final result here, the conversion result here. Then our this UI, the home page body, we have to attach, or you can say call from the main home page. So go to the home page, and after the home page header, which simply means this is the home page header and this is now the home body. So after the home page header, we can say homepage body. And you know that to the homepage body we have to pass the currency from currency to amount digits, which is assigned to their parameters. For example, we are receiving it as a parameter here. Now we are ready to test the application, but one thing you may have noticed is that whenever in the search dialog we search for any currency, then it shows us, let's say if I search AED, then it show me twice. The result it show me twice. The reason is that we forgot to clear the overall currencies. Once the new data is updated, once we get the new currencies from the API, then we forgot to clear the overall currencies. Here inside this get new data and save to database, you already know that we get new data from the API and we save it locally to the local storage, or you can save to the local database. And before updating the overall currencies, we have to make sure that we clear it, that is, clear the old data that we have. So we clear the old data, overall currencies dot clear, and then we add the new one, which is retrieve. So this way we will get the fresh currencies and it will not duplicate the currencies in the search. So once you do that, now let's install the app on the phone to see the result. So the app is running now, okay, and you can see the UI. First let me explain a little. As you know that we have a text to display the result, which you see by default it has 0.0, and then after it we have the currency to which we are converting, or for which we want the result. We display that currency. You can see target AED. Okay, so anyways, let's do the functionality. For example, let's check, I want to say that how much is 1 Saudi Riyal to AED. So it is 0.98. Let's say I want to convert 100 Saudi Riyal to AED. So you can see that, and you can also see the beautiful animation. And as well as, for example, I can change the currencies. Let's say I want to convert from USD to AED. So if I want to check that how much is 1 USD to AED, then I will simply click here, and it is 3.67 AED. Let's say I want to convert 100 USD to AED. Show result. So it is equals to 367.15 AED. Similarly, you can switch, okay, and then you can click on show result. So it will convert 100 AED to USD. So in USD it makes 27.23 USD. So you can either switch also. For example, if you want to check, so for example, now I want to check how much is 120 AED when I convert it to USD. So click show result, and it makes 32.68 USD. Similarly, let's change GBP to any currency you can select. Let's say PKR, and I want to convert only 1 GBP to PKR. So 1 GBP is equals to 358.06 PKR. Let's say I want to convert to Indian rupees. So it is equals to 107.89 Indian rupees. You can convert as much amount as you want. You can flip or exchange the currencies. Now I want to convert Indian rupees to GBP. Let's say the same 1999 rupees. So it makes 18.52 pounds. Now the last thing that we will do is basically to change the colors of the dialog box. For example, for this title, search and choose currency, and the currency name. So for that purpose, go to the choose currency dialog, and here the color for this text we will change to color.gray, and the same color we will add for the text field placeholder. Also on the text style, the color will be color.gray, and the cursor color will be green. Then the text field default.colors, focused, unfocused, disable and error. For that we will change the color to light gray. Then after it we will go to the currency picker view, and inside the choose currency view, which is our this currency picker view, if you see, we first display in the dialog the country flag, then some space, and then the country currency code, or you can say the currency name. So the color for this we will change to color dot gray. Then our currency key selector, if the currency is selected, it will have primary color, otherwise it will have color dot light gray. Go back to the choose currency dialog. Now the container color, that is the dialog box background color, we will change to dark gray. Now let's test the application on our app. Now the reason behind all these changes for the color was the reason for dark and light theme of the app. So for example, when the phone theme is white, in that case the app theme will also be white, okay, light theme, or you can say white theme, and this is how it will looks, as you can see, and the dialog box will look like this. So this is when the phone theme is light, then the app theme will be light as well. Now let's change the phone theme to dark theme. So I will do it from the phone setting. Now the moment when the phone theme is changed to dark theme and I go back to the app, then you can see that the app theme automatically changes to the dark theme. And in the dark theme, when the app theme becomes dark theme, you check, you see that this is how the dialog box will look like in the dark theme. Also, let's remove this extra space from the home page header. Go to the home page header and we have these extra spacer with 10 dB, remove it. So this was all about our application, which has been completed successfully. And now you can find out the exchange rate of any currency.